his starts and sits for your quarterbacks and running backs. But we're going to give you a few right here on TV, which is very convenient for you. Brock Purdy, people have the MVP discussion. The question is, are we starting him this week?
Very tough matchup against the Ravens. I don't care. He's MVP Purdy. What are you're going to get away from him? All he's given you is 21 or more fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 with 3 or more passing touchdowns in 4 of those. He had a tough matchup earlier this year against the Cowboys. He went off for like 26 fantasy points against them. Yeah, this is his toughest matchup yet, and maybe the Ravens could slow them down a bit. But are they going to be able to stop CMC, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle? No. They're not going to stop everyone. They'll get his. And for those of you who are like, this is too easy, it was going to be Trevor Lawrence, but he's in concussion protocol.
Yeah, and again, a good defense. Some people are legitimately asking the question. We answer it right here on the show. The Commanders' offense looked great down the stretch. Problem was this guy got put on the bench. Are you starting him this week?
No, it is over for Sam Howell right now. It's like at the end of Goodfellas, man. It's all over. He was benched last week. Jacoby Brissett played half of a quarter, had more yards, scored more fantasy points than him, fewer than 130 passing yards in his last 2 passing touchdowns in his last 4, and the Jets are in the bottom 3 in yards, touchdowns, and fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. They could create pressure up front. Oh, and then he gets the 49ers defense next week. Not only can you sit Sam Howell, you can go and drop him right now.
No, it's all over. It's all over for Sam Howell.
Anyway. Oh, the horse head, I get it.
Yeah.
Took me a minute.
Anyway, we eventually got there. I was just gonna, it's a little fun for you guys at home. Jake Browning has been so hot. Are we continuing to start him in our fantasy lineups?
Tough matchup, be damned. I don't care. We are playing Jake Browning in fantasy football. He has averaged 23 fantasy points per game and 318 passing yards in his last 3 games. In the last month, he has been the QB6 in fantasy points per game. Plus, the Bengals have scored 25 points in their last 3 games with Jake Browning. They had scored 25 points 3 times in 11 games with Joe Burrow. I'm not saying that Jake Browning is better than Joe Burrow, but the stats right now might be.
Yeah, take a view upon the numerals and just make your own decision. But anyway, yeah, we're not saying that. Nobody here is saying that. It's preposterous. Bijan Robinson had a miserable game, so did the Atlanta Falcons, but are we starting him in week 16?
Yeah, we are. I'm sticking with him. And look, I know he let you down last week. Remember back to when he had the headache and Arthur Smith had to answer questions all week about why he didn't use his best player more? He gave him 21 opportunities the next week. Now Arthur Smith is talking about, I'll die before I give up and not get this right. I don't know what he's talking about, but he's answering questions about his job and about saving this team's season. I think he knows that the best route is Bijan Robinson, and it is a great matchup as the Colts have struggled against the run. I think you just have to stick with Bijan.
We do motivation all the time for players. Why not play callers? Arthur Smith and the Falcons going to try extra hard this time. Najee Harris and the Steelers have been trying. They have been scoring a lot. What are we doing?
We are sitting him. Look, I know Mason Rudolph coming in, Christmas season, all that good fun stuff. I don't want to bank my fantasy season on the line with Mason Rudolph. Less than 2 fantasy points last week. Double digits just once in the last 5 games for Najee Harris. He played fewer snaps than Warren last week. He is not involved in the passing attack, and that's what scares me. When they fall behind, they tend to like to use Warren. Warren's also the more explosive runner, and the Bengals struggle against explosive runs. So if you're playing any Steelers back this week, I think it should be Warren.
All right, Jaylen Warren the pick, not Najee Harris, who goes on the bench. Derrick Henry was stifled by the Texans last week. Does that move you in week 16?
The first time in like the history that the Texans have ever stopped Derrick Henry. I'm not giving up on him though. He still had 20 touches last week, 18 or more fantasy points in his previous 3 games. The Seattle Seahawks have allowed the most rushing yards and touchdowns to running backs since week 9, the 3rd most receiving yards since week 10. You have to stick with what got you here and what got you into the dance in the first place, because the volume and the upside in this great matchup is simply too high to get away from for Derrick Henry.
And to all of you who did have Derrick Henry and survived and made it, we salute you, because some of us, me, did not. We got more starts and sits coming up, tight ends as well. Coming up here on NFL Fantasy Live and the wide receivers. Want more quarterbacks and running backs? Starts for Justin Fields and Matthew Stafford. Putting Russell Wilson in that holiday classic on the bench, as well as Gardner Minshew.
That's right.
Jerome Ford going on the bench. James Cook smash start, as is a start for Ezekiel Elliott as well, who has been pretty hot as of late. Wide receivers and tight ends. Let's get into it, Mike, with a guy whose team didn't throw the ball. They just pounded the rock against the Dallas Cowboys at home. Are we starting Stephon Diggs?
You know who you're asking.
Yeah.
I'm starting Steph Diggs. Look, I know he has not been himself the last 5 weeks, but 11 or more targets in 2 of his last 3 games. The Chargers are in the top 4 in yards, touchdowns, and fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. They just allowed a huge day to Devontae Adams. My approach is the same with Diggs. I could start my stud in a great matchup and live with it if he disappoints. Not the opposite. I cannot live with myself if I sit him. And I think this is a game where the Bills they're going to throw the ball and really just remind everyone how good Stephon Diggs is.
Legitimately. That's the direction you have to go. But this next one, I really want to know what you say here, because Terry McLaurin came alive late in SoFi. Yes, it's a tough matchup, but we just saw Jalen Waddle have that bomb against the Jets. What are you doing with Scary Terry?
Unfortunately, I think you sit Terry McLaurin. And the thing is, he played great last week, but it came with Jacoby Brissett. It was his first time in 18 games going over 100 yards. 93 of those, the touchdown, and 18 of his 26 fantasy points came from Jacoby Brissett. The Jets have allowed the fewest yards, touchdowns, and fantasy points to wide receivers. They are extremely stingy against the deep ball. I have a league where we have to start 3 wide receivers, 2 flexes. I cannot get away from Terry. If you're in a similar position, I get it. But if you start 2 or 3 wide receivers, you can get away.
All right, sitting Terry McLaurin, there are some folks that had T. Higgins in the game, made it to the next round. Do they keep it? Do they keep everything on the table and ride with T. Higgins?
Yeah, I'm riding with T. Higgins this week. One of the best touchdown catches you will ever see last week. Browning has been averaging almost 320 passing yards per game, and now Higgins is going to be his top target with Jamar Chase out. Given how productive this offense has been, the added volume, I think you have to start T. Higgins this week, even understanding that there's a little bit of volatility, but I think the floor and the ceiling are elevated with no Chase this week.
All right, let's go to a place where the floor has been lava. It's a fun opportunity. If you watch the show, you know what's coming. It's Kyle Pitts. Are we starting Kyle Pitts?
You know I love Kyle Pitts.
He does.
Unfortunately, we have to sit him. Since week 7, he has double-digit fantasy points just one time. It was the week I told you to start him, though, but you know you cannot rely on touchdowns with him. He has 1 red zone target in his last 11 games. The volume is low, and the Colts have allowed the 7th fewest yards to tight end since week 11, just 2 touchdowns to the position all year. So given the matchup, given the offense, all of that, I think you played safe and you pulled Kyle Pitts from your lineup.
All right, David Njoku and Joe Flacco linked up several times against the Bears, but the Texans' defense was stout in the second half against the Titans. What do you do with David Njoku?
Look, I was excited about Njoku coming into the year. It didn't play out the way I thought it would, but he is still broken out in a big way. All he kind of needed was Joe Flacco to come in. 26 or more fantasy points in 2 straight games, double-digit fantasy points in every game but 1 since week 7. Clearly good rapport with Joe Flacco, and that is who he is looking for in the red zone. And the Texans, they've allowed the 4th most yards, 6th most fantasy points to tight ends. So good matchup. He has rapport with this quarterback. You just keep riding with the hot hand in David Njoku.
All right, David Njoku's got you where you need to be. So is Michael LaFleur. Let's get some more starts and sits for a wide receiver tight end. Rashee Rice and Jordan Addison, 2 rookies, dominant. Our start sits for Adam Thielen and Gabe Davis, as well as Gerald Everett and Logan Thomas. Taysom Hill on Thursday night as a start, as well as Isaiah Likely in that fun, huge playoff implication game between the Ravens and the 49ers.